not the podcast you are looking for.
If you're looking for the same old content delivered by the same old people, you are on the wrong pod.
This podcast has life form. You are listening to Stache&Lash.
You're listening to Stache&Lash, the show where we talk about everything that unites us as Mexicans.
One living in the U.S. and one living in Mexico. The Stache&Lash Show. Is this thing on? Hello, everyone.
What is
Welcome. How is everybody? Welcome to, drum roll please, Halloween / Dia de Muertos special. My friend, how are you today?
I am excited. I mean, you can't tell, man. Look at this. I have my whole room decorated now. I put the velas on.
Right?
I got the skulls going. I even got this shirt. This shirt, like, you know, I feel like...
yeah, we dressed up. Like, definitely we dressed up for today.
So happy, Halloween. Happy Dia de los Muertos coming up after this weekend. Thank you for joining us for this very special edition of the Stache&Lash Show. Once again, this is El Stache Show.
And the Lash Show. Welcome, everybody.
Welcome. So we're going to go right into it, G. We have a special guest. This guest has been totally cool with me harassing him. I mean, quick story on how I even came across and even like, you know what, we have to get him on. He was doing a presentation or some kind of speech here at ASU. I saw an article come up and my wife is like, dude, you have to get him on. I'm like, oh my gosh, yeah. And I'm looking at him like, oh my gosh, yes. And, reached out, sent a couple messages. And the first thing, it was late at night too. And he said, sure, why not? I'll join your podcast. I freaked out. And here we are, fast forward. So let's introduce our special guest. Lash, would you mind doing the intros?
Of course. So we have with us today Lalo Alcaraz.
Lalo,
are you there? Wow!
I like how you wrote my name, Lalo Al.
Lalo Al. AL. How are you? Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, sure. I'm proud to be on your show for the Muertos, very special Muertos episode.
Very special Muertos, yes.
I see that you're even
fogging up. I'm sorry, my glasses are fogging up, so I gotta take off my.
I was gonna say I don't think we need to wear a mask in this environment, but I appreciate the gesture. Lalo, tell us a little about yourself, man. I know that you're very well known. I mean, we're going to get into a lot of different topics, but tell us a little bit about what you do and currently what you're working on, if you don't mind.
Sure. I'm a political cartoonist and Chicano artist that basically they keep throwing new mediums at me. The universe, I guess, to work on. So I started off as the kid that draws, at school, and grew up in San Diego, California, on the border, and I grew up in San Diego in the 70s, basicly. And when I was a kid, I would see that there was nobody that looked like me on TV. There was no brown people on TV. But you could watch American shows dubbed in Spanish, right? Spanish is my first language. And my parents are from Zacatecas and Sinaloa. Woo! And,
I like how it's Mexicans when somebody from like mentions a town we're from. We go, oh, that's right, woohoo!
Paisano, yay!
Paisano.
You know what? Can I say something? I'm really excited to be on a show that is like Mexican themed, like Mexican descent, and not to disparage other places, other labels. But specificity is universality, and I think that that's what I use in my work, and I'm glad to see you guys doing it. Although sometimes you can go a little extreme. I have a friend who's a college professor who said he's not Mexican, he's like a Zacatecan American. I was like, Wait a minute, it doesn't quite work, but okay. We're all figuring this thing out, right?
I like the specificity though. That's gonna throw a lot of Americans off, right? Like what?
Yeah. So I use the border in my work. I use the Chicano political movement in my work. I'm a pro-immigrant all the way, hasta la muerte, hasta la tumba, and I'm so pro-immigrant. I even think Melania Trump can stay. I think she can stay. All right.
Like, okay, fine, you can stay. Like,
you can stay, but your husband can go. So.
Yeah, suddenly I'm the migra now, But I work in pop culture. I work, to promote Mexican culture, to promote Chicano culture, border culture, and to support immigrants' rights in all kinds of media. That's the broad strokes, I guess. We can get more specific and universal in a bit.
Yeah, for sure. No, I appreciate that, Lalo. Now, the reason why, we love having you on is because that connection. Again, our show, I'm here in the U.S. and I'm in Phoenix, Arizona. I grew up in Riverside, right, the England Empire, for most of my childhood. And then, of course, I was born in Zacatecas. So there's that connection there. And, of course, Gabi, and her story is a little different. She was born in Ciudad de Mexico.
I was born in Mexico City, but I moved to the U.S. when I was like 2 months old, and I lived in the U.S. for the 7 years of my life. So
Did you crawl the whole way?
That's a good question. I have to go back to my mom and ask her. That's a good question.
That's how they got across. They weren't expecting the baby immigrants coming over. Crawling.
Exactly, like literally crawling.
That's gonna be the
across the border
on those news stations, right? Baby immigrants crawling.
Taking over.
Yeah, 2 months late to be an anchor baby.
Yeah.
Mexicans are always late.
Exactly.
But Gabi, tell your story about how interesting it was that you were actually going to be born in the U.S.
Oh.
And your parents got scared because, again, we like to scare people, right? So
my mom was the one that got scared. So the story is my parents got married and they moved to the U.S. because my dad got a scholarship to pursue his PhD, and fair enough, my mom got pregnant with me, and when she was 8 months pregnant, I was going to be born there because the college gave them like medical services and whatever, and so they were cool. The baby. They didn't know it was a girl. She was gonna get born here, but a neighbor scared my mom, and she was like, "Hey, if it's a boy, they're going to enlist him in the army. So you better," yes, exactly. So you better go back, get the baby to be Mexican, and come back. And that's what she did. So she flew 8 months pregnant back to Mexico City, and I was born here. And at 2 months old, on a plane, I went back to the U.S. and we stayed there for 7 years. So that's the story.
Slap that neighbor.
I know. I right now, when we talk about this, I'm like, Mom, like, really? And she's like, I know. But
we always have those neighbors chismosos that think they know it all and scare the crap out of us, right? I mean, I think that's what happens.
Chismosos. Yeah. So that's the story.
Wow.
So we have a connection because we are both Mexican. I lived in the U.S. I think I lived in the U.S. and you see, we're still living in Mexico. So that's funny. So I came back, and then you went to the U.S., right? And you stayed there.
Yeah, no, I came over. I came over when I was 4, and that turned my life around. Never went back. And people always ask me till today, like, you don't have an accent, and I'm like, I wish I had an accent, dude. Accents are sexy as hell. I mean, look what it's done for Antonio Banderas and all these Mexican actors, right?
Well,
He's not Mexican. He's Spanish.
Arizona accent. So.
But no, I've been here ever since I was 4. But I went back. I told Gabi I went back when I was back in like junior high school for a couple years, and I actually went to school in Tijuana for about a year. I loved it there, man. That's where I grew up. That's where I became a man, and not in that sense. I didn't do the doctor.
What?
Many
That's what I.
En La
That's what I grew
Coahuila.
up.
En La Coahuila.
Yeah, that's what I grew up. I was, I was taking taxis. I was all over town, man. Again, not that way. I just, I was a man about town. And that's when I came back to the U.S. and I took my school serious because, dude, the Mexican education, it was way more advanced than I ever took. And I was like, I don't even do the math, everything, the correct. I mean, I was falling behind. I was a bum compared to what I was learning in the U.S. And that's when I came back and I excelled in my school. And I think those years in Mexico. So.
Wow, that's amazing because I've always heard that, like the Mexican school system. I mean, it's different, but it can be more rigorous, and I think maybe it teaches you survival, as because probably a lot of the students are not going to go past prepa or even before. My mom, I mean, this is like the 1930s or something. My mom went to the 4th grade. She's smart as hell. She used to do the homework for the ranchero kids that had farms and could like pay her in longaniza and queso and
of course.
Yeah,
of course.
So, and she was like a baby, man, so but she taught me how to be a smart ass, so she was kind of smart in that way.
And that's where it came from, man. And that's how you ended up with your career, man. Again, I doing a little bit of research on you, it sounds like you were actually, your first career path or your main focus was actually architecture, right? You were going to be an architect.
Well, I mean, overall, I was going to be an artist no matter what, because I feel like we might all be cousins or we cross paths at some point, because all our backgrounds are kind of similar, but I have family in that they're my cousins from Mazatlan, 2 boys, couldn't go to university in the 70s. There in Sinaloa, there was no university. They had to go to Mexico City to go study. They became CPAs, but the background is they are artistic, and they sang, played, wrote music, it had radio shows, painted, drew. I mean, it's like the Alcaraz line is like super artistic, right? So I benefited from those genes, but I got to grow up in the U.S. where I could live as an artist. I've never had any other day job. This is my day job, being an artist, and I've been really lucky in being able to do all kinds of different things. But in Mexico, my cousins were CPAs, and then taught.
Yeah.
So I can't do math.
Yeah, math.
I don't know where they got that.
Yeah, no, I definitely. It's interesting you say that because I mean, Mexico is well known for their artists, right? I mean, just in the creatives in general. I mean, think about all the directors. But me and Gabi had an episode, several episodes back, where we're talking about really just the golden era of Mexico film, right? Which was the Pedro Infante, Jorge Negrete, those Cantinflas. Dude, those movies were just iconic, and the storyline, and just even we were talking about that episode with the Tres Huastecos, which is like they didn't have the high, the technology they have now, but they were able to do like him in put him in 3 different characters, right? Like the creativity that they did back then was amazing, and again, it runs in our blood. I mean, from art, artistics, creatives, it's what is Mexican, right?
I have a funny story. I was I was presenting an honor up north in Sacramento, the Latino Spirit Award or something, the state government. And I was doing a podcast with one of the assembly people, Wendy Ortiz, and with Cheech, right? Cheech was one of the honorees, Cheech Marin. And so he's a big Chicano art collector. We were doing this podcast together, and, it was kind of smoky in the room, if you know what I mean. And so we were all feeling pretty good, but I was very comfortable. And I said, "Hey, Cheech, let me tell you something. I have a wacky racial theory about like Mesoamericans, specifically Mexicans, indigenous people from Mexico and Mesoamerica, we all have like an artist gene, like a graphic design gene. And he looked at me and he goes, duh. I'm talking to the biggest Chicano art collector in the world, and he's like, duh. Yeah, no kidding. Something runs in our blood where we have this like visual art talent that is, I mean, like I was speaking in, Texas, I think, and I went to a big library, and I'm getting old and I'm forgetting all the names of all these great stories. The specific library has a great Mesoamerican art collection, has a map room, sort of. They call it's kind of the paper collection. They said, would you like to see, I get invited to like special behind the scenes stuff all the time, right?
Of course.
Yeah, I love it. And they said, would you like to see this display? We have, it's a map. I said, yeah, sure. They lead me to a big ass table, and it is, I'm not lying, I mean like a like 10 by 15 feet, it felt like, maybe 10 by 10 feet of a map from 1570, right? Like 50 years after the Conquista, this map that was drawn by an indigenous artist, right? And it's a map that like you see the codexes with like, a temple and some nopales and an eagle over here, and then the gods over here killing some dude. It like that, except it was, like the colonial era was starting, the post-conquest era. Yeah. And it was a map of the area, some area, I'm not sure, somewhere in central Mexico. And they were telling me like, yeah, the artists, they, and you could see, I had my nose up to this thing. It's covered in plastic, thankfully, like your Tia's couch, right? And I was looking at the lines, and it was, I mean, like I had my sketch. Oh, crap, just fell off my desk. I had, sketch, like, it's like looking at my sketchbook, like this, going like, I could see where the artist, used a brush and ink and paint, and my mind was like, getting blown. By how these guys were like the cartoonists, they were cartoonists. Yeah. And here I was 500 years later looking at this guy's work like he drew it yesterday, but it was like a big comic page, and it's just amazing. And the funny thing is they told me they would lie to the Spanish, right? Like say, he lives by this lake, his family lives over by the lake with the nopalero next to it, and it's got like a good hot spring or something there. And he would draw like a puddle of mud and be like, oh no, you don't want to go there. Yeah, that's terrible over there. So they would lie to the Spanish, be like, yeah, no, that area sucks,
Even back then, we were trouble.
We were teasing everybody, yeah.
Oh yeah.
Brothers Madrosos back then.
Yes.
So yes, we do have that skill.
Yeah, no, I definitely, I love how Teach Marie just called you out on like this is not new,
Yeah.
like that duh is going to be the highlight of this conversation.
But I blame the smoke that was happening. That something was happening. With
what was that?
I don't know.
Alan was on fire. Yeah.
Chong was on fire, but
So, Lalo, talk to us about the interior transition. So again, you grew up, by a border town in San Diego, right there by Tijuana. Tell us about how you got into political cartooning, because that is definitely it's very artistic, but definitely there's more significance to that, right? Why did you decide that medium, right? That outlet for you?
I think, I was going every week to Tijuana, or every 2 weeks to go get the, La Quincena, to go get the groceries, right? With my mom, or my dad would drop us off, and then we'd go shopping, and I would see the newsstands, and I would see the comics, like Santo comics and Calimán and then all the translated Disney comics, Donald Duck, and for some reason like Scrooge McDuck is really big in Latin America, but I guess because he's rich, I don't know. But so there's obviously there's a big tradition in Latin America of comics because of the lower literacy levels, right? And and that genetic disposition to be able to draw, and so there's which is why today we have like Mexico has like the most badass editorial cartoonists on the planet. They are just amazing artists, but they get to cuss in there, so they're actually they get to draw dirty things in their comics.
Yes.
But that's Mexico. So I think I picked that up there, going back and forth and seeing, like, my mom would take me to the movie matinee at the Cinerama in TJ, and we'd watch like Santo versus Las Momias, and Blue Demon versus Your Tia, and whatever, and that would blow my mind. So I loved all that, and then I would come back to the U.S. and be like, well, ho hum, yeah, maybe I need to draw that stuff over here because I'm bored, And so I started drawing that way. I just love comics naturally, and then I think after a few years of I would mature, and I would see injustice. I would see the way my parents were treated by their bosses. I would see how the Mexican community in San Diego was mistreated, and we'd be followed in the damn J.C. Penney's by the shoplifting police, and well, I was a little cholillo, and we'd get chased by the sheriffs in Lemon Grove, where I grew up in the town, which actually, so, I mentioned this, that I would get racially profiled by the sheriffs in Lemon Grove while I was getting this recognition by my city, Lemon Grove, where I grew up. And I am opening this right now, pulling out the certificate that they made for me in recognition of Lalo Alcaraz certificate of recognition. And the world's turn in weird circles.
Has a funny thing about it, yeah.
Anyway, I think that's hilarious.
Wow, amazing.
City of Lemon Grove. That's it.
Awesome.
We're famous for a giant concrete lemon.
Okay.
Also, and the Lemon Grove incident, if you guys know what that is one of the very first school desegregation cases involving Mexican kids. There were all my friends' parents.
Wow.
My parents were the kids involved in this case, where they built a separate school thanks to the PTA. Thanks, PTA. The white PTA decided the Mexican kids ought to stay on their side of the tracks. Like, literally, it's a safety issue. They shouldn't cross the tracks to come to our school, so we're going to build them a school over there.
Oh my gosh.
And they built them a barn.
Oh, they're so kind.
Everybody pulled their kids out and sent some of their kids to TJ to go to school while this case happened. So Lemon Grove sure has
changed,
come around in a while.
Well, that's the thing, Lalo. I think the biggest thing that stands out for me is that when we see a lot of these things happening, right? It evokes emotion, right? Like, we find that emotion, and we can take it in anger and just be upset with the world, or we can channel it like you did and put it into practice with our talents, right? And bring awareness. And I feel like that's kind of what that's what you've done. That's what you've been a big part of, and that's for me that stands out. And whatever talents we have, right? Whether it's sharing our story. Mine, for example, is you talk about the law in California back in the 90s, the SB 1070, I think it is. Did I say it right? Did I butcher it?
In Arizona, you mean?
No, in California. What
Prop
was that?
187.
187. Thank you. Yeah, I remember being a kid and being around that time, and I was illegal. So I remember those moments. And for me, it's like, hey, I'm going to tell my story and not be shy about it, right? Don't hold it within myself. Like, tell others, hey, we are not like the media or other people portray us, right? And that's really what it comes down to. So again, I just want to thank you for everything that you're doing, and you're for myself and others, you're showing us the way that it's totally possible. That don't keep it to yourself.
Wow. Well, I hope so. And yeah, I mean, you're probably that first generation of the undocumented and unafraid generation. I mean, you were the first ones, and Prop 187 and 1070. I mean, just garbage laws that came out of just that that hatred. I would see it growing up in San Diego. We used to have things called like Light Up the Border, which was a bunch of white guys would take their cars to the border and turn the lights on so that when the Mexicans try to come over the fence, they would be lit up so the border patrol could get them. And it's just like, who thinks of that stuff up? God, like, just go live your life and be happy,
Right.
But so speaking of being happy, and of expressing yourself in your art and getting that out. And that's a funny thing that I see today. I try to stay relevant, and try to stay on top of what's happening. But sometimes, some of the self-care and the what's the other thing? The healing and all that stuff. That's great. I can't deal with that, because then I wouldn't have anything to draw about, like if I was totally happy, I would just go play Xbox or something, but so for me, the drawing and writing, I'm on a mission. It's my therapy. And like I said, I'm going to die mad. I'm going to throw me in the ground. I'm going to be mad. The ground's going to bubble up with mad. I'm going to be angry. And that's good. That's fine.
Yeah, like I said, that's your therapy. Let's let me show a couple images here of like your what you've done.
What does this Joker do anyway? Let's
prove people that there's actually some stuff here.
We need proof.
Yeah. So this is La Cucaracha, right? This is your comic strip that you created and that you share a lot of your content.
Yeah. Originally it was called LA Cucaracha. It was I started it back in after the LA riots. Like, because of the LA riots, I got a chance at the LA Weekly. I was invited to draw a comic strip, a weekly panel, and I was there 17 years, and other, it was like alt weekly cartoon, and I used these characters they evolved in that in the LA Weekly version. Matt Groening of The Simpsons was drawing Life in Hell there. He's probably the only other cartoonist that was there a little longer than I was. Wow. And all the alt weekly cartoons that, weeklies are basically gone now. Papers are, shrinking. And so it was a golden era for, kind of these comics that we do once a week. But I turned this in 2002, I turned it into a daily comic strip. And it's been going since then.
That's awesome, man. And again, you have so much work out there. I mean, you're definitely on top of, the political and everything that's going on. You're very, you're very, ahead of the game when it comes to that. But, I'm gonna pull a couple of them up. But if you can just share, what were the inspirations or what was going on, during this time when you, printed this cartoon. So this is one that really stood out to me right here.
And I want to say too, like, the characters in La Cucaracha, not to make you go back, but I forced you.
I did.
This was like a group of friends in the 20s. It's kind of my reaction to Friends, the show. It's like Chicano Friends of, being 25, being out of college, and not having a care in the world,
Vero, Coco, and...
Yeah, Vero, Eddie, Cuco, and Neto, the guy with the red hat, Eddie's little brother. And there's like dozens of characters, so it's a slice of life of like a group of Chicano friends, and they basically experience everything that's happening now. So
I mean, this should be a sitcom. Like, this should be Friends. Like, this should make it.
I've only pitched it as a show like 8 times, so maybe the 9th time will stick.
Maybe let's keep pushing it, man. Because I would be interested. We talk about Friends all the time and that connection of like, oh, who are you? But I'm like, let's make it relevant. Like what you said, growing up.
Yeah,
we want to see that representation now, right?
I like how now we've come to the point in society where the creator of Friends is like apologizing for making an all-white show in New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like, all right, that's not enough, but okay.
It's a little too late, but I'll take it, right?
Yeah.
All right. So let's go with a few of these images there, Lalo.
This one is about, obviously ICE's tactics and really just a general terrorizing of our undocumented communities by ICE and the government. So abolish ICE.
Yeah, no, and you know what? This one resonated with me because that's how I felt growing up, right? In the shadows, definitely felt like the boogeyman, right? Like you always have to be careful. You can't bring attention to yourself, just head down. And that's why I'm saying when I went to Mexico, that's where I felt liberated. I felt like I didn't have to be like that no more. I could be myself. I can get a taxi, I'll be outspoken, stand up for myself, and I think that was a big turning point for me. So this one really
all the Mexicanos are like, why is this kid so loud and obnoxious?
He's so happy all the time. What's going on?
And he has an accent. And if people from Mexico know that I'm not from Mexico, they go, are you from LA? I'm like,
Cálmate, pocho.
All right, this was had to be during the campaign of I think is it.
Wow, I haven't seen this one in a long time. Yeah, right in the middle of the presidential campaign between Romney and Obama, it's like they were both playing the center.
Yeah.
And so they really didn't want to talk about immigration.
Like they're dismissing the immigration topic.
Yeah, the 800-pound gorilla.
Those are frustrating, dude. Those debates are no longer debates for me. They're all about deflect, change the subject.
Yeah.
And like, dude, let's have a real debate. Like, tell me what your, it's frustrating. All right, this is another one of my favorite. This is a classic.
Of course, this is I'm a big fan of that T-shirt. Homeland Security with Geronimo and a bunch of warriors, right? And Apache warriors. And so I was like, I want to do my version of that. So this was my version. This is like probably the biggest cartoon I ever did, my most popular one, and used Geronimo's image. Geronimo, I mean, what a badass. He fought off the Mexican and the American armies, to a standstill, and he finally had to give up so that his people wouldn't get massacred. And that he's just, in any other history, this guy would have been running everything,
Right.
A brave, smart, just hero. Also, it's a little inspired by. So stop me if you heard the story before, because when I tell it, I then heard it somewhere else. But my dad would tell a story where he'd have to cross over from Tijuana when he was living in Tijuana and working in San Diego. He would have to cross the border once a week to go to work, right, and stay at a boarding house, in Lemon Grove. So there would always be, they go at the same day, same time, and there would always be a big Native American dude in line with them, and they, everybody has to go through the line, right? So he would be in line with them, and then the customs agent would say, papers, please. And then all the Mexicanos would be like, this sort of their micas or whatever, right? And then when they get to this Indian guy, they would be like, uh-oh, here comes George. He'd be like, papers, please. And he would throw a fit every time. He'd go, what? Papers? Me? Show me your papers. You should be papers.
Yes.
he would like, just go off on them, and they would be like, "Okay, go, George, go." All right.
That's awesome.
Every week. So I told the story somewhere, and somebody's like, "Wait a minute, my abuelo used to tell that story," and then I Googled it and I found it somewhere else. I'm like, okay, this is like an urban legend or something. I don't know what this is. So I question the veracity of that story. But that inspired this cartoon too.
I question everything, is what you're saying. You're like, what? I like how our parents do exaggerate some of these stories, right? Like, I mean, for me, one of the ones that my mom exaggerated, she said that Antonio Aguilar was my uncle.
Oh,
Antonio Aguilar's your uncle. He's from Zacatecas. I'm like, oh, he is? And I would tell everybody. I would say, hey, my uncle's Antonio Aguilar. He's a badass. Like, and then finally, I think it was until my 20s, she finally said, "Mijo, stop telling people he's your uncle. He's not. I just made that up." And I'm like, you're telling me now in my 20s?
He's actually from Boston. So
yeah. And his name is not Antonio Aguilar, Antonio González de Guadalupe.
Tony Eagle.
I tell these parents, man. All right. So let's add a few more. Here are more recent ones. I mean, I can imagine there's been different eras that you had, right? Of different, just events in our history.
Yeah, I come from many eras now. I've been through many eras.
And of course, you have the most recent one. And I mean, you had a ton of material, right? To just really pound on.
Jeez. I mean, we all cartoonists got that. Man, you must be so excited with all the material you have. I'm like, actually, no, I wanted to end.
Yeah,
Please end. I'm glad it finally came sort of to an end.
Sort of, yeah.
It's not every day, every 3 hours, something new. So
I think you were overworked. I mean, you're probably working, twice as hard.
Oh, yeah, because it was so easy. He's a big, fat, slow-moving target. And so, but, like I said, Melania can stay because, she's got her anchor baby.
Yeah.
So it's legal.
There it is. Yeah, when I saw that again, I mean, I think that sign's been so iconic, but the fact that it can be used for the opposite, right? To bring awareness and be like, hey, this is right?
I think I could do a whole art show with all the cartoons I use the border crossing sign. I think I'm the cartoonist that has used it the most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Hands down.
Here's another one of my favorite.
Can I tell you something? Don't tell anybody. I might even own one of these signs.
Like a real one?
Maybe.
Maybe.
Who told you?
I love that. Maybe.
I don't know. There was smoke involved. That's all I know. There was smoke involved, and then I just got
smoke was smoke somewhere. Yeah.
Hey, I would. I mean, I don't know. I mean, I was to say I wish I would. I mean, do I have one of those signs? Maybe I do in my closet somewhere. I don't know.
It has to be a very big closet.
All right. Here's the most recent one. Another most recent one that I really, I mean, not say enjoy, but I definitely, when I saw this, I reposted it right away because it really pissed me off. Right, when you have organizations that are from Mexico, and then they get involved and they support, this family, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, Goya, I don't think is from Mexico, but they're Cuban.
Are they?
Yeah, which makes it a little more
I thought they were Mexican.
Yeah, that's something new. I didn't know that. I thought, but they definitely cater. They're the majority of their revenue.
They are definitely everywhere. They play, they play all sides. But when this moron, the head of Goya, came out and supported Trump, I mean, that was like field day. I mean, everybody was doing cartoons on that, and I jumped. I did like 2 or 3 for sure. This is another kind of iconic image with the child in the cage. That I've used that quite a bit. Sometimes I have to point this out to people, and now that we have an audience watching this around Day of the Dead. Just to put the date stamp on it, that editorial, like I draw a lot of hate, not just from right wingers. I draw hate from people in our own community that sometimes don't understand what editorial cartoons are, and they just see, um, an image and think like, or they're traumatized by it, or they're offended by it, and they think they think I'm a proponent of this stuff that I draw. It's like, no, it's I'm presenting what's going on in the news. I'm not just drawing posters for, everyone's delight. I'm in a I'm cataloging, I'm capturing a moment in history in the news cycle. And now, because the news cycle is like every 5 minutes a new story, right? And sometimes, we have to not look away. We have to see these awful things. Kids in cages. I'm not, I think people see cartoons and they say, "Oh, are you trying to be funny?" It's like, just because it's a cartoon does not mean I'm trying to be funny. I'm usually funny because I'm a very funny guy. But and humor is, helps the medicine go down.
Yeah.
But sometimes I'm, it's a hammer. I want to hit you on the head with it and piss you off so that you get off your ass and do something about this thing.
Mm-hmm.
Be outraged.
It is, and it's one of those things when you watch this, you want to just like go and shake these people and be like, "Are you not seeing what I'm seeing here? Like, aren't you pissed off as well?" Right?
Yeah. So I tell them, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. So they're definitely one of those things. And going back to that, the whole Kate, you made a comment in one of the interviews in the podcast that you talked about, and I really resonated because it's saying, hey, if you were to replace the kids with like dogs, for example, like dogs, you would see people rise up and be like, injustice, get them out, free them. It's like, what? Like, really? It just takes.
It's true.
It's sad where our culture is that we don't value human life the way we should.
I got so many letters from angry dog loving Karens after I drew the cartoon with a Karen being horrified by the dog in a cage and ignoring, a row of brown kids in cages,
100%, man. It's sad the way we're at, but again, that's what you said. You want to bring awareness, and hey, you're gravitating towards the stuff that you're seeing from these stations that all they do is basically they're sounding the alarm, right? The immigrants are coming. The immigrants are coming.
Look at the governor of Florida thinks that Florida is on the Mexican border. That's my next cartoon, by the way.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah, plop that thing right there. And he's like, the immigrants, the crisis at the border. It's like, dude, no one. The Mexicans are good swimmers, but not that good.
I know, man. I think that he's definitely the right the right governor for that state because he looks like he's a giant dick, is what he is.
You heard it here.
It's a fact.
We should take a picture of this.
The last show flashes went like 100 miles an hour.
Like, oh my god.
So let's transition now to. I mean, before there's one more I want to share, and this is a big popular one because it really, it really started. It brought awareness, right, when it came to these organizations, right, that they know, hey, we want to cater to the Latino market, Latinx, but then they go and do stupid stuff like giving money to the wrong, politician, for example, right? So this one here,
involve a mouse. Oh yes.
In this one, again, this was during, that time where, you found out that, hey, they were giving, money to a politician that was definitely anti-immigration and being a big part of that movement. When this happened, did actually Disney reach out, or what happened when you created this?
Well, I had already been tweaking Disney. I think this one got on their radar, but this is the book cover illustration for my book, my only collection of editorial cartoons. I promise I'm going to do a new one. And there was a big strike going on all over Mexico and the U.S. of the telecommunication workers, right? And in Mexico, it was like this is a time of NAFTA coming in and just a lot of upheaval in Mexico. And in LA, the Mexican groups and the U.S. groups are like this as far as activists, and this group one of the groups approached me and said, can we use this image of Migra Mouse in our campaign against, and I don't know if it's Verizon, if that even existed back then, or AT&T or Pacific Bell, maybe it was just like, it was a big telecommunication company that was doing contracts in Mexico. And they said, can we use this for our strike? And I said, of course you can. They said, we're going to print some posters of it. I said, all right. So previously, people had been making their own posters of Migra Mouse and marching. This is the time of Prop 187, and you explained all that before, Pete Wilson. Disney had given money to both sides of the governor's campaign, and Pete Wilson and Kathleen Brown, Jerry Brown's sister. Jerry Brown, famous boyfriend of Linda Ronstadt, Arizona. See how I tie it all together?
There it is. Tie it in all around.
So they, so people have been using it in marches and rallies, and then these artists even made me a big wooden Migra Mouse. I mean, this image became like iconic during that time that we were protesting Prop 187. It was great, but we didn't have the internet. We didn't have awesome copiers like we do today, and so it was limited to people making their own thing. And I was like, great. So then these guys said, we want to print your posters, print posters of it. I still have some of them, definitely collector's items. They had them printed in Mexico, and they smuggled them across the border into the U.S. And so they printed like 10,000 of them, right? And pretty soon people were telling me, like, we had a strike in Paris, and we for a related thing in Paris, and at Disney, Paris Disneyland. They were holding up this poster, and so it was great. It got everywhere, So I think that through the grapevine, I heard that they might have probably they see it, they saw the image, but didn't really do anything about it, because I think it was a lose-lose for them if they came after a lowly Chicano cartoonist and semi-employed, and I think they just kind of held their nose. Later on, I drew a cartoon that got around about I think it was Michael Eisner, who ran Disney, and who was, the Disney family was pissed at him because he was like the first big mogul running Disney that wasn't a Disney cousin or nephew or something. And so I drew Mickey Mouse as Eisner, flipping off the cousin, right? The nephew, Roy Disney, right? And so that cartoon got all over the place. It was at record stores, like people clipped it out, making fun of Disney's like a pastime out here, and cartoons all the time. And so I got a call from Disney, from an assistant to somebody very high up who wanted to buy the original of that cartoon, right? But I was like, I think they think they're gonna buy the rights to it. So I asked them how much they were. I gave them a really high price, and they said yes. And I said, nah, hold on to it. No, they said yes, and I said, yeah.
Oh, nice. Forget that, man. That's awesome, man. Well, it's interesting how, again, I mean, first of all, you have a gift, my friend, of tying things up and finding the connections there.
I can't do this in my scripts. I can do it talking on a podcast, but like in a script, I'm like, I don't like do this.
I was waiting for you to be like, and Sheriff Joe Arpaio, whatever.
I'll get to that.
All right. Well, here's a full circle though, right? That happened, all that attention. Again, you did a lot, but then here, then you get a call from Disney to join or be a part of the whole project of Coco. Tell us about that, because I mean, did they forget who you were?
Well, it had been a while. Look at that, I cleaned up nice. It had been a while, and but yes, we had gone through the next Disney incident, which was Disney trying to trademark the term Dia de los Muertos. And so the way that worked was a Disney superfan who follows the Disney trademarks, because that's the way you know what Disney's up to. Right? So this person follows trademark filings, has an obscure blog somewhere, sees that Disney's working on a Day of the Dead movie. Every studio probably had one. Had been working on one. They filed for the title of it, which was at the time Dia de los Muertos. And this person just was like, cool, now I know what the movie's called. Posted that, and then all the Chicano lost their minds. They're like, what? How could you trademark a holiday, the term, name of another culture, another country? That's ridiculous. And I knew that it had to be a lawyer, because obviously the lawyers do the trademarking, but it had to be like an all-white legal team, that somebody there. I mean, there was no brown person to say, maybe it's not such a good idea. You got to look into it a little bit. The great legal minds at Disney were like, let's go for it, do it. And so that the explosion of anger on online, a professor in Colorado, a Chicana professor, Chicano studies, I think, filed a petition. Everyone signed it. I never signed petitions. I signed that one. And then I was like, I got to do a cartoon. So I drew this cartoon, Muerto Mouse, to point out, like Disney's coming for your culture, like a big monster. I don't know if you have it. You're gonna pop it up on me.
I'll look for it right now.
Okay. And thank God for the internet. You can just Google it or throw it up. But so I drew this cartoon. So to set the whole timeline of this, Tuesday was the day that blog made an appearance and said, this is what's going on, the trademark. By Thursday night, Thursday afternoon, I drew that cartoon and went super viral. Thursday night, Disney withdrew the trademark application. And I know later, somebody told me, a little bird with mouse ears told me that somewhere in the very highest office, there's Muerto Mouse right there, by the way. Opens nationwide on Dia de los Muertos. It's coming to
coming to a theater near you.
Yeah. And they told me that the head of Disney saw this cartoon. Like, petitions are great. They probably saw that, and people were starting to cover it. But they saw this cartoon and sent it to the producer of the movie, who's a very high-ranking person at Pixar, and said, what the F is this? And then said, take care of it, right? But, it took
magic words.
Yeah. And it took a year to take care of it. They called me in a year after that. And I was working on a show. I think I just finished working on a show called Border Town, Seth MacFarlane animated show. And we had one glorious season. Our show was too far ahead of its time.
It'll come back.
Crazy as AF. And so they, the Chicana from Tucson, Marcela Davison Aviles, yes. She was a consultant for Elena Vavalor and other Disney stuff. She's the one that was working on Coco, and she and Darla Anderson, the executive producer of the film, who went to San Diego State in my same department of environmental design, but I just missed her by like 4 years or something. They took me to lunch and presented, the idea of me coming on board as a consultant. And I said, all right, are you, that's interesting. The universe has a sense of humor by dropping this on my lap. But I asked them, I interviewed them. I'm like, are you going to listen to what I say?
Exactly.
Maybe, yeah. But I said, I'm not a rubber stamp for your movie,
Mm-hmm.
No, that's not what we want. We want help with the cultural stuff and for the audience. And I said, are you going to have brown facing? Are you going to have white actors playing the Latino Mexican parts? They said, absolutely not. I said, all right.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. I called my lawyer. I'm like, take their call. Do you know what my lawyer is?
Cheech. It happened all in that same thing when that same event, right? You said, "You're my lawyer."
My spiritual advisor. That's it. You guys seen the movie The Goonies?
Yeah.
Yes. Huge
Alright.
fan.
My lawyer is Chunk.
Shut up.
Hey, you guys.
Chunk is an entertainment attorney, and he's my lawyer. He was I went to Berkeley grad school. He was not at the same time. He's younger than me, obviously, but he was the student body president, very involved at Berkeley. And he's a great entertainment attorney, and so he's my attorney.
Wow.
Wow.
Weird Lalo trivia there.
Yeah. Heck yeah, man. And he doesn't look anything like himself either, right? He's probably a lot grown up and thinner, and
He's about the same size, but he's not chunky anymore.
he's not chunky.
He's not chunky anymore.
He's about the same size.
I don't know how many times. I bet he gets pissed off when people do his quotes or hey,
Oh,
Yeah.
he loves it. He
the
loves it.
shuffle.
Oh,
shuffle.
I bet he
Like,
does.
He's like, come on, dude.
He's a great guy. He
Awesome. Well,
His name's Jeff.
full circle, man. They bring you back, and I love that. I think I don't know if it was one thing you tweeted about where like they actually didn't they sample this in Mexico like beforehand and try to get like the reaction in Mexico, or what happened? What was some of the things that happened? Because I want to kind of figure out, like, besides consulting and having you say, hey, watch out for this or give them advice, what other things did they do to make sure that they stayed true and didn't go past, no se pasaron de la raya, like we say, right?
Yeah, no. Pixar doesn't mess around when they make movies. They research the heck out of whatever. And if they did Finding Nemo, they went into the ocean for 3 months.
Mhm.
They went to go live in the ocean. And they went to Mexico. The whole team, the artists, everybody went down for 3 months into Mexico. I never get to go on these trips. Damn it. I have to get signed on earlier with these research trips. But they went down to Michoacan, Guanajuato. They went down to to Morelia, went down to Oaxaca. They went all over, to get the essence, and to do the visual research, because it's, you're creating everything the way it looks. You're not just shooting camera, man. You're creating all kinds of stuff, and then you're creating also, the underworld, right? And it all has to be Mexican. They went to Mexico City, to like in the scene where they're getting their entry into the land of the living, right? Like that whole depot, that whole transit center, it's like I think it's the Correos Nacionales
Yes.
building, right, in Mexico. And they just did an amazing job visually, and then our part, I think, the script developed from they worked on it for 6 years, so the script development was going all the way to the end of the movie, but it changed several times. It was a very different movie in the beginning, And honestly, I mean, I'm probably violating an NDA or something right now, but they had a bunch of old white guys writing the first version, and it didn't work, And I think, I mean, it wasn't that. I mean, it wasn't like kind of where we are now in pop culture and Hollywood. People are making an effort to do authentic stuff, but it wasn't like that 5 years ago, but I think it was the bubbling up of that. It was a pivotal point, like they knew they're going into a super woke era, like no one's gonna put up with this. We have Twitter. No one's gonna put up with a fake, crappy, same old thing movie. This you're pouring so much money into it. It's going to be a global movie, and it's got to represent Mexico. And they had the cooperation of the Mexican government, and they did it right. Our job, I think, was really to sharpen all that and just to make sure that get a set of other eyes on it. All the Latinos that worked at Pixar, they all worked on that movie. They all gravitated to it. Nice. Like the assistant director was a guy that was drawing, at Pixar and working in the story department. And he pitched so much good stuff to fix the story. They made him assistant director. And I'm like, wow, I like that kind of affirmative action, man. That's what corporations should do. They should. For all the mediocre people that were given jobs because they had an uncle in the business, we should make up for all that and just like go out there. And it's starting to happen, but that was like a really, they really, kind of planted the flag, I think, for authenticity and for justice, and I think it worked, but our job was to kind of watch the movie as it developed, give suggestions. We know everybody. I know a lot of people. I have a lot of cousins. No, I know a guy, but we brought in people from the community all over the U.S. Latinos from Chicago, from Texas, from Colorado, not just Southern California. We brought people from Arizona, and to consult, to we made like the council of I forgot what we call them. I don't want to call them the council of elders.
Like a sample group or
no, we did that too. But this was like artists that we know, well-known people in the communities, like the head of a museum or the head of a theater company, or folklorico dancers from the Bay Area. They gave feedback on that. And so it was we said we'd like to do this, and Pixar's like, cool, yeah, do it. We'll fly them in.
Awesome.
Yeah, so it was really good. And then they also had I'm nonstop yapper. This is gonna be the 2-hour.
Go for it. This is Halloween special.
Everybody's gonna be Dia de los Muertos.
Yeah.
It's gonna be edited to 5 minutes. But
no.
We the songs, right? The songs that weren't Remember Me, right? That they were written with that guy Adrian Molina, who I talked about, the assistant director, and my friend Jermaine Franco, who's a Chicana composer. She's the first Chicana or Latina to be in the composers, union.
Wow.
Or, whatever. She's like a badass. She does feature films, and I known her for 30 years, and she and Adrian did those songs, and I recruited her. We did the theme song for the Casagrandes, which is a show I work on at Nickelodeon. But back to Pixar, she got they got authentic Mexican musicians. They went to Mexico, hired people to do the music. She knows her musical genres. Everybody took care of every detail, and it shows.
It shows.
It really does show.
Oh my gosh, I love the fact that you just said, when it comes to affirmative action, all that, people like they make it feel like it's a bad thing, right? Like, oh, you're forcing, like, they don't understand. Like, we would be so far advanced as a society if we really tapped into the talent that's out there. But to your point, I see the illusion of planting the flag. Like, you know what, it's the word woke. Like, I definitely sense it, man. So thank you for being a part of that, and I'm glad that they capitalized on your talent and your wisdom, or at least your knowledge, right? And heard your voice.
You know what? It was. I mean, I live my life by letting life wash over me. So I don't have an aggressive life plan. I kind of know what I want to do in the next year or so.
Yeah.
And kind of things. I want to make a movie before I die. I want to make 10 movies before I die.
Heck
features.
Yeah.
I want to direct an animated feature. I want to do all these things. But when that opportunity came, I was like, yeah, they're gonna make that movie with me or without me, right? And I got a lot of crap from idiots, from haters.
Why?
For signing, like, I don't know, because they're stupid. I don't know. Like, they're like, why are you helping them? I was like, well,
why
do you
not?
want a harmful product out there that would poison our kids' minds, or would you like something like positive that would not glorify, but would be respectful to Mexican tradition and treat us like the way we deserve, so I don't know what I had to fight these people off, and
haters gonna hate.
Yeah, just
And it's sad. And then again, this is one thing that me and Gabi really talk about, and we also have another podcast that we do a lot of soccer stuff, and that term.
I thought you were gonna say we got to go to our podcast. So
oh no,
soccer one is coming.
Hey Lalo, go full circle, man. Let's go.
Wrap it up.
No, but the other one in the soccer community, but this is more than anything. The big thing that comes up is like the el peor enemigo de un mexicano es un mexicano, and that keeps coming up, and we want to squash, we want to stop that, and say, you know what? No, like we got to stop that, because we're never gonna get out of it, right? Like, stop the hate and promote, and encourage. So.
Maybe my only exception might be La 69. So, but
oh my God! Oh,
we were trying to avoid her, Lalo. We don't want to give her
avoid that.
I gotta, I have a limit.
Oh, he had to go there, and what a way to end it. And now you really cut off. Like, wrap him up, dude. He brought that up.
Yeah, I'm not the one from Riverside. You brought it up.
That's cold. And I actually did get excited. I go, she said Riverside. I go, well, who cares? This is horrible.
I want to be supportive, but if something's hilarious, man, I'm gonna say that's hilarious.
You're gonna use it, man. I totally agree. You do. Well, Lalo, to close us out, anything to close us out with? What we kind of already been talking about it. But any projects, anything you're working on that you can talk about? I know you have a lot of stuff that you got to keep under wrap, especially with all those lawyers, with Chunk keeping you at bay. What are some things that you're working on that we should get excited about that you can tell us about?
Yeah, before I go, I wanted to say that, like, Dia de los Muertos, it's a phenomenon that has really caught on thanks to Chicano artists who brought it to the U.S. in the 70s. But now, because of globalism, and it's kind of coming from all ends. It's coming from Pixar. It's coming from Mexico, and even it's even in Mexico. It's kind of, in some areas, it's a newish thing that my family didn't celebrate it in Sinaloa, or even Zacatecas. I don't know if they did or not, but it's okay to not be rigid. Like, we can play with it. We can use it for our purposes and just let it live and breathe, like, let Dia de los Muertos be what it wants to be. Mexicans are good at absorbing all the cultures and then doing something new and great, right? From nothing to create, beauty. That's why Mexican culture is beloved all over the planet. That's why, and we connected with, especially the Chinese people. I met the guy from Disney that distributes movies in China. He's a Chinese guy in Shanghai. He was like, you haven't lived until you've been in a movie theater full of Chinese people in China crying their eyes out during Coco.
Oh my gosh.
And I get chills every time I say it, and I say that I have to let you know I'm getting chills. I'm getting chicken.
Yeah.
Isn't that powerful? That's
Yeah.
because their culture, they kind of do a similar thing, but they connected, with this movie made by a giant American corporation. It's still magic. You know what I mean? It's still a beautiful thing. And so, and showing indigenous people on screen, that's a beautiful thing, and that's what this movie did. And it became the #1 movie of all time in Mexico.
Yeah.
For a reason, although the previous #1 movie of all time in Mexico was Avengers. So, take it with a grain of salt. But Mexicans have great taste in movies. The happy Dia de los Muertos to everyone. Happy Halloween to everyone. Please enjoy it. Respect your ancestors, but you don't have to be stiff like a muerto. You could be like Jose Guadalupe Posada and be open-minded and create all kinds of imagery and just roll with it or whatever. So, projects. I wrote an episode for Victor and Valentino, show on Cartoon Network about Jose Guadalupe Posada. And that's coming out on November 1st, whenever that is in relation to this.
It's coming up.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming. So, and then I'm working on, I'm artist in residence at Arizona State School of Transborder Studies. I'm hoping to teach a class next year there with no essays, just comics.
So a lot of Mexicans are not going to go. Okay.
Oh. You had to go there.
I had to go. That was an easy one. That was you laid that up, and I said.
And I'm wrapping a video game. I worked on a video game for Xbox, which is a driving game called Forza Horizon 5. I think that's what it is. And are you familiar with Forza games? It's this game is set.
My brother is.
No, yeah, the
Yeah.
one was set in like the UK. This one's set in Mexico.
Wow!
Eye-popping. It's just amazing, and I got to consult on it and write some of the dialogue, and it's fun. It's just I practice driving, and I drive through the nopales. You get points for crashing. But it's non-violent. It's just all about cars. I was driving a DeLorean today.
Oh,
awesome.
It's pretty fun. And then I'm writing a movie for a major studio right now. It's killing me, but I got a good writing partner on that. And I'm gonna be doing some crazy stuff next year. So hopefully you get to see it.
Yeah, Lalo, thank you, man. All the best. We want to wish you continuous success and keeping, again, being that change agent, making this new generation continue to encourage us to speak up and use our talents for good.
That's right.
Exactly.
But thank you again. It was a pleasure. Honestly, I hate stopping this. I want to keep going. I'll be like, hey, what is dinner, Lalo? What are we having for dinner? We'll be right over.
Leftovers.
Those are the best.
Whiskey. Japanese whiskey.
Japanese whiskey. And paloma and whatever Gabi's
Tequila. Salud!
So from Phoenix, Arizona, all the way to Ciudad de Mexico and all the way to California, I want to thank you again, Lalo. El Stache signing off along with
The Lash Show. Thank you so much, Lalo. I'm a huge fan from Twitter, by the way, just throwing that out there.
Oh, thank you. I'm on there way too much.
I know, and I love it. So thank you so much for being here, and Viva Mexico.
Viva Mexico.
Viva Coco. Yeah, that's awesome.